All right. Welcome to the last installment of our Higher Education Finance Symposium for Spring 2024. I'm Dr. Anthony Edwards. I'm the instructor for this course and looking forward to this next presentation on public university finance. So group, take it away.
So we're going to be talking about public university finance, along with Bailey Brock, myself, Shaylee Dodd-Brooks, Amber Kearney, Grant Mills, and Haley Roberts. And I will pass it off to Haley to begin.
Thank you. So higher education finance is the key component when it comes to any higher education entity. While everyone involved is here for the well-being and success of the students, without education wouldn't exist. We will see the observation, and we'll also explore the insights of key colleagues who play an impact in higher education.
Awesome. Can you guys hear me? Awesome. So so I'm talking about the literature review. As many of you guys studied throughout y'all's chapters, we realized that higher education finance has drastically evolved. When you look at the beginnings to the past, present, and future, there's so many. We could write a presentation on each one if we wanted. But in a quick bullet points and summary, we kind of started back around the 19th century is where I began my study. And higher education was reserved typically for the wealthy elite and predominantly operated through religious institutions and philanthropy. Post-World War II, the perception of higher education slowly began to shift as the local government started to promote public education for economic growth to help maintain this workforce. Post-war, state and federal funding began to support veterans through the GI Bill, which increased enrollment rates significantly. During this time, the economic shifts were typically less pronounced, and funding was relatively stable, but very limited. And then also the tuition and fees were very minimal. Around the 1980s, we began to see the shift due to the new high demand of higher education. Costs began to increase, and this eventually outpaced inflation. Due to these public educational shifts, there was an overall decrease in the financial aid at the state level. And this financial crisis led to multiple student debt challenges, public funding assistance, and the new topics of conversation for how to now sustain higher education for the long term. As we look forward at the future of public university finance, there were three big things that we really discussed in our studies, and one was technological advancements, public-private partnerships, and policy changes. The continued advancement in technology, as we all know, will continue to shape the direction of higher education, whether through online learning, the way we operate on the faculty and staff side, and this will gradually shape the landscape for educational programs, learning forms, and then major financial adjustments moving forward. The public-private partnerships is very interesting. The continued development and collaboration between the government, state, and private sector of higher education. By combining these resources, higher education will develop new ways to foster innovation, maintain funding, and continue to sustain growth. And then finally, with policy changes, due to this development of the new partnerships and these advancements and the new approach for outcomes, institutions are beginning to honor new policy changes for loan forgiveness, tax rate adjustments, and more outcomes-based funding models.
All right, so when observing finance for a public university, I observe the common sources of funding, which are state and federal government funding, tuition and fees, and donors. The state or federal government funding allocates funds to public colleges and universities within their state. This funding typically covers a portion of the operating expenses for institutions, including faculty salary, facility maintenance, and academic programs. Many public universities receive a large amount of funding from the state they're located in. So the state or federal government funding can be based on economic conditions, political priorities, budgets, and at sometimes racial inequality. State and federal governments may also reduce funding for higher education due to the economy as well. Next, we have tuition and fees, another major revenue stream for public universities. Tuition can change depending on the student's residence. So based on in-state or out-of-state, public universities often charge a lower tuition rate for in-state students than out-of-state or international students. However, tuition increases can be a continuous issue as they may affect accessibility and affordability for students. Many universities have endowments that fund various university activities and programs. We have donors that are individuals, alumni, or corporation. They provide a substantial financial support for numerous projects, such as academic programs, scholarships, research building projects, and services for students in need of support. These donations contribute to the advancement of education and research. Students can access these resources by visiting their campus financial aid office or campus business services as well. Overall, the finances of public university requires careful planning and stewardship of resources. Balancing the needs of financial stability and providing high quality education could be a challenge for many university administrators. These common funding sources contribute to public university finance by providing financial resources that enable institutes to provide high quality education. These are our 3 observational insights. Next, we'll have Bailey discuss the interview insights.
All right, thank you. So yeah, I will be talking about interview insights. So this was my favorite part of the whole project because you really get a glimpse into how other professionals in the field handle their day-to-day. So first we interviewed Stephanie Scott, who's the Associate VP for Business Affairs and Controller at UTA, Grace Taylor, who's the Associate Director of Financial Aid at the Philadelphia College of Orthopedic Medicine, Don Jones, who's a financial analyst at Tarleton State, Lori Beatty, who's the CFO at Tarleton State, and Brent Baker, who's the VP of Institutional Advancement at Weatherford College. Go ahead, Sherry. So how I broke this down was I found it most interesting to see the questions and kind of a cumulative summary about how these individuals answer these questions. So first we asked them to describe their typical days in their departments, in which they replied there really isn't a typical day. They highlighted the need for flexibility and adaptability and the importance of effective communication with various stakeholders across campus, whether that be students or other people across campus. We asked them how they integrate higher education finance into their roles. A lot of them handled reporting requirements, strategic decision-making, budget management, legislative awareness, and community connection. There was many memorable events, specific events that each of these individuals identified. Those range from successful fundraising campaigns, substantial donations to significant institutional developments, and impactful contributions to student success and institutional growth. Our next question was how they kept informed about new developments in higher education finance. Many of them did mention organizations such as NACUBO. They network with other schools and other people in their department, use online resources, attend conferences, and monitor legislation. Sorry. So we also asked them how they support students in their roles. A lot of them were very keen on student success. They really were pushing student success. Like, we all are in higher education for a reason, and student success is really that main reason. So higher education finance is deeply intertwined with student support and success, as it provides the necessary resources and funding mechanisms to ensure students can access education and achieve their academic goals. Their commitment to student success underscores the core mission of higher education institutions and guides financial decisions and strategies. Lastly, we asked them what recommendations they had for other individuals who wanted to attend or be in higher education finance, rather. So they said explore different departments, not just sticking to your own department and being boxed in with that, but really kind of getting the full grasp, looking at student affairs, looking at other different departments to really get the full scope of what higher education finance does. They also encourage networking, not only with your own institution and other individuals across campus, but with other institutions They did find that going to a lot of these conferences, such as NACUBO and things of that nature, was a great way to network. Building relationships, which goes hand in hand with networking, continuous learning, staying updated with industry trends, and a focus on student success.
Okay. Thank you, Bailey. And now for the best practices for public university finance. So as mentioned by Sarah and Wheeler, forecasting is a huge part of higher education, and this is something that a lot of finance experts are utilizing. It allows them to predict what ifs and look at the trends. There's also been a large expansion of institutional research offices in public university finance. It allows them to look at enrollment, look at trends, look at tuition and fees, and really crunch those numbers. And then another component is a single source of truth. This allows everyone in the institution to be on the same page and really assess the financial stability of the institution. Another way that finance experts are working in public universities are utilizing outcome-based funding or performance-based funding. So this really incentivizes student success. It's based on degree and certification completions, and it really supports underserved students. It's not so much about getting students in, but making sure that they're finishing. And so it really increases the educated population, not just at the institution, but within the community, as well as using multiple modalities. So public universities are able to partner with other high schools, like using dual enrollment, as well as community colleges and completion colleges. This is better for non-traditional students and adult learners who have accumulated several credits and are not too far from getting a bachelor's degree. This still allows the public university to generate revenue and also lowers the cost for students to complete their degrees. And then Learn on Demand is a program that is implemented in Kentucky. And it allows students, once again, to complete their degree. And it also allows them to choose specific modules and courses. So they're not having to do a 4-year degree. They can just take what they need. And once again, it's still generating revenue, but it's saving students on the cost for their education. And then finally, understanding their audience. And this also goes along with the university mission and the strategic plan. So knowing different people's roles and what is important to their department, and allowing different modes and mediums of collecting data and looking at the revenue and the expenditures. And so for some administrators, it's key performance indicators. For some, it's dashboards and data storytelling. But just looking at those trends and looking at what is coming in and what is going out. These are all things that public university finance experts are utilizing on a day-to-day basis. And now I'll pass it back over to Haley.
Thank you. So we explored many different aspects of higher education finance for public universities, and we've learned how the public university receives funding federally and within the state it resides in. There are many more factors and different aspects surrounding higher education finance and how funds are used for the student. We see how revenue is brought in for public universities and how higher education finance plays a very important role in higher education for these students. And then we should be on to questions if anyone has any.
I have a question. So I noticed that you guys had mentioned the public-private like collaboration with funding between that and the state. And I know that we see that at like the K through 12th level that now private institutions or private schools are getting more money. Is it affecting like higher education the same way as it is at that level? Or is public institutions, are they still receiving like what they should be receiving? Does that make sense?
I'll just say we didn't really come across anything as far as that they're getting more or less funding. I see that a lot of their funds are coming from state appropriations, but I really don't have a good answer for that. Someone else can follow up if they have a better answer to that question.
I'll turn it back over to the group, but what I will say is we're about to go into a legislative session pretty soon, and higher ed finance was on the agenda last time. It focused mostly on community colleges, and I'm not necessarily certain, but I have a good idea that public universities are going to be a topic of finance in the next session. So we'll see what happens there. But
Yes,
I'll
I
turn it
can
back
kind
over
of,
to the group.
oh, sorry. I can kind of elaborate on that just because I've recently spoken. I work at a community college, so I kind of anticipate we're getting funding based off of success points, and I kind of see where it will maybe trickle into universities. Now they have a higher population of students, so I don't know how much it's going to actually impact. But I know that community colleges, they've already kind of started the works into that, and I think it will progress into our public universities. So I don't know if that helps any at all.
It does. I was just curious to see if there was any similarities between the two.
Well, excellent job on this presentation. It seems like you really learned a lot about public university finance. And again, I'm looking forward to reading your final paper.
Thank you.
Thank you.